Hi, this is Bissonette with this week of tips and tricks. I'm going to talk about how I set up the turnaround for these youngsters and help them along in the process of that. A couple things to think of before we get started. If I'm calling Q1, that's up here by the front cinch, 2 is right between the cinches, and 3 is by the back cinch. Now, the importance of this is, I explain it to a lot of people like this. If we are real consistent with touching those buttons every single time we go to that button, the horse will know how to respond. If we have a clear 1, 2, 3, as we cue the horse, they're able to respond 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. But if we hit in the middle of those cues, the horse is wondering, is that 2.5? Is that 3? Is that 2? And they respond in the same sort of sense. So we want to be real exact. With our first cue, it's up by the front cinch. Our second cue is in the center. Our third cue is by the back cinch. When we start these horses, a lot of times you'll see us tie their horse's head around to the saddle. And what the horse will naturally do in that cadence is they'll step under themselves, hind foot, hind foot, hind foot, and then they'll step around with the front. Hind foot, hind foot, hind foot, step around with the front. And so when we're starting these horses in the saddle, we got to keep that association in mind, and essentially we want to cue when the horse wants to naturally step into that step, and that's how we build that association with the cue. So a big part of what I say with a lot of these horses and a lot of the maneuvers is if the horse isn't able to do the maneuver, it's because we as the rider need to set their feet up a little bit more correctly. Now, with this horse, I've been working her a little bit, and I know one of her tendencies is to walk forward in the turnaround. So when I finish my turnaround, we're hoping to really settle with her, but if she doesn't settle, we'll bring her back and work on settling her. When a horse is in that turnaround, when we're working them in that turnaround, a couple things are happening a lot of times. Either they're falling forward in it, or they're coming back too much, essentially. But what we're looking for as a trainer is we're looking for those front feet to step in front, and then this crossover has to step out. So again, a lot of times what happens with people when they're starting to train is the horse steps over the front, but the horse is stepping forward with that inside foot. Well, when the horse goes to do the next step, they're running into themselves, which creates an incorrect step. So we're really trying to set that foot to come either straight out or slightly behind itself, so when the crossover comes, we're able to get a real clean crossover. I had another client ask one time, what about the hind end? And as we're training these horses, when I start out, I'm not really worried about the hind end. My first important piece to the puzzle is getting that correct front end. If we work getting that correct front end, a lot of times the hind end will fall into itself, or it will be something that we'll work on a little bit later in the process. So to show this, to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive with my inside foot. It's going to be on that 3 position, back by the back cinch, really driving her through, and slowly but surely I'm going to make that circle a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, until she breaks with that hind end, and then I'm going to cue up at this 1 position on the outside to bring the horse through. It'll look a little like this. So my right hand's my neck rein. That has to be at that horse's mane or a little to the left as we're going to the left. Now, I'm make this circle a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. Again, I have my inside foot cued by the back cinch, and I'm just slowly shortening this hand up and making a smaller circle out of it, smaller circle out of it. Now it's real important that as we're making this circle smaller and smaller, that we have a soft feel on this horse the whole entire time. If that horse is getting heavy, there's a couple things we can do. We can either bump them through it a little bit with our hand, or we can bump them through it a little bit with the foot. Either one will soften. Alright, now I'm going to close that circle just a little bit more, and you're going to see the hind end break through. And she sets up and stops. Now she's balanced and ready to come with the front end. So we're going to push that outside by the front, and we're going to cue up forward and keep her stepping forward with that front end. Forward, forward, forward. Now another thing that I see a lot of people do, in a mistake of that, is they're so excited to get that first correct step, they come out of the circle. When we get that correct step, we want to continue the circle. What this does is this encourages that horse to keep on stepping with the front end so that we can later on down the road build it into more and more of a turnaround. So same deal, I'm cueing with the inside by the back cinch here. I'm driving her under. I'm going to break that just a little bit more so she breaks the hind end. She hasn't broke it yet. There, the hind end is broken. So her next step is naturally to come with the front end. So I'm going to push up here with my outside cue with the front end, let her come around. She wants to stay there, so we'll be nice and soft and let her stay there. Ooh, that was really nice. I'm going to push her back underneath herself. And that's going to be a real good beginning turnaround with this youngsters. So, again, I'm going to drive with my inside foot, and what this help does for the horse a little bit as well is it builds their momentum. Okay, it builds the momentum into the turnaround. Now if you're just beginning and you want to break that hind end and wait for a half a sec, push that hand out, keep that neck rein, change your cue, that's completely okay. Ooh. If you're feeling a little more advanced, you want to work this up to the next level, try not to quit that circle at all. You're going to drive through, drive through, drive through, drive through, drive through. You're going to take the inside leg off, switch cues, and that horse should not miss a step. Now, the next step in the progression of that turnaround is I always want to see if I can get smaller and smaller and smaller with my cue. So I'm going to set her up pretty small. Again, my ideal situation with my horse is I want to be able to work my right and my left just that small of a cue and pick this horse up. Also, what I want to start looking in the advancement of her turnaround, so I want to set that hand, I want to set that leg, I want to open the inside, and I want her to be comfortable in that. If she goes to walk off, I'm going to check her back a little bit and set her. If she's stepping behind herself, then I got to encourage her a little bit more with the front end, and we're going to try to find that balance and see if we can do it with a small cue. A lot of times where she's at currently is she'll do a couple good steps and then she'll second guess herself and throw her head out to the outside. So I'm going to be kind of ready for that, and if she seems like she's going to throw it to the outside, I'm going to just pick her up just a little bit more, encourage her through that, keep her true, and when she's true, I want to set back down and let her do her job. Okay, so what this is going to look like is something a little bit more like this. I want to set her, want that hand to stay down. Has to stay true in a neck rein, but I want to keep it down and I want it to be a light cue. Oh. She did a really good job staying in there. I asked for that second notch, that second little bit of speed. She picked up the speed, she held herself. She came up with the head a little bit, but she found the speed and she settled, and that's where I want to quit her, in a good spot like that. She did a great job on that. We'll see what the other side looks like. I'm going to open up my door, come to the outside cue. So now she's a little higher, so I'm going to support her a little bit, and I'm going to bring that head down just a little. So I'm just going to shake the rein, keeping that neck rein until that head comes down a little, and there, whoa. Take the cue off, say the word. Again, if that horse is walking forward in that turnaround and is falling out of it, not locking in it, when she comes around, I'm just going to bump this hand here, both of these back, and set her back in it, and hope she finds that cue. When we get these horses working good, it shouldn't be a lot of work to get them to turn. She wants to be in that position, so we set her up to be in that position, and then once she's doing the right thing, we leave her alone. Once she's doing the right thing, we leave her alone. Oh. That's Bissonette, tips and tricks on how I work my turnaround with my younger horses. Thank you.